Hello, Guitar Club. This is Mr. Longo here, coming to you remote from Mikasa. And what we're going to do today, I wanted to make a video for you because I'm going to be taking a short leave from teaching for a little while. But I'll be back at the end of March, so we can have our next true meeting in early April. Okay, so unfortunately, that's the way it goes. But what I did want to leave you with, at least, or even, if you're a newer member and you need to know some things, I'm going to give you just a kind of a maintenance sort of how-to tutorial. What we're going to do here is just clean off the guitar. We're going to put on some new strings. I'm also going to give you a basic walkthrough of some slightly more advanced things. You may or may not have heard the word setup. So let's get started. This is my Epiphone here, my Sorrento, and I don't think I've changed the string since I bought it. Now, I don't play as much as I'd like to, but I do notice that it just sounds flatter, the strings are a little gunky, and it's time. If you play all the time, they recommend you change your strings every month. And that can all depend on what kind of strings you use. There are some strings that are formulated to last much longer, and you'll know that by how it sounds. If it still sounds bright and springy, then you're probably okay. If you don't feel like it's too gunky, you're probably okay. Me, I personally am a big fan of Ernie balls. Okay. And what you're going to notice too, you go to the store or you go online to look for these, you're going to see a bunch of different gauges. Okay. So what I'm going to use is a 942, and this is their Paradigm series, which last a very long time. They're their most break resistant strings. Not like that's ever really been a problem for me. So what do you need? You need, for starters, string. You will probably be good if you have a plier, something soft like a needle nose plier. You can also use it if you need to tighten something up, like if the input jack is a little loose, or if you need to go in and do some work, like just tightening things up. Okay, so first off, this is how I like to take off my strings. I don't take them all off at once because what's going on here, there's tension in the neck because of the strings. So what I like to do is I kind of like to take it off maybe from the left or from the right, do the middle ones last, or even leave the middle ones on while I'm stringing. Okay, that way it doesn't completely mess with the neck and create like a bow or a leaf. Okay, now I'll show you some other things as we go along. So time to, you can detune it. Some people just cut it. Okay, both ways are fine. Okay, I think personally I like doing it this way because I think the tension is less, like the change in tension is less sudden, let's say. Okay, so then you can unwind it, or you can use the pliers and cut it. Okay, one or the other, whatever works for you. And now this, the bridge system's probably a little different than what you might have. It might not be. If you have more like a Les Paul kind of guitar, what you can see is it sits here on the saddles of this bridge, and then it has this system to hook in. This is a tailpiece. Sometimes they go through the body, like for Fender style guitars. Okay, so let's keep moving here. And another thing that could be happening too, a good reason to have that little chamois there, is the finish might be a little gunky because your dirty fingers have been playing loud, nasty rock and roll or whatever you play, and might be time just to give it a little wipe down. So a nice microfiber cloth will do the trick. Okay. Now another thing is, as you can see, I'm really unwinding it to get it loose. So I'm going to show you a nice way to get it on there nice and tight in a way that won't slip on you, so you won't have to retune it all the time. I can, do some troubleshooting on that. So this guitar, the tuners are not great, and I have not gotten around to replacing them. And just so you guys know, if there's ever something you want to learn how to replace, I am happy to help you with that. Okay? More than happy. I love doing that kind of stuff. Um, as a matter of fact, this is probably the first guitar so far that I haven't done anything to in my 20 years of owning a guitar because I love to tinker with them because there's so many different options and changes to the sound, the playability, the feel. Eventually, these tuners will go. They're what they are is this is supposed to be like a replica of a 60s style guitar, so they made it 60s, which doesn't exactly mean most accurate. Okay, so I have to tune it a little more often than I'd like to. Okay, so we're going to do the wipe down in a second. And I'll also tell you, so we're looking at the headstock here. Underneath here is something in case you do feel like you're having problems with the guitar neck, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So I also have a flat Phillips screwdriver to take off those three screws so you can see what's going on in there. Hopefully I won't need to use it because I should be in great shape. Yeah, so this was tied really nice. I never really had any trouble with that string, but it's tied so nice, in fact, that I do need to cut it. And pull it off in two pieces. And try not to scratch the finish, because that would suck. Sure, this is the most exciting part of your day to watching me wrestle around with a little teeny piece of steel. Again, that's a good reason why we got these needle nose here, because we can just try and grip the one part and then pull it through. And with this, when these little strings in particular, it's so much easier to use those needle nose pliers because they can be pretty slippery, they can be pretty sharp. Okay, last string. Okay, so my strings are off. In this case, with this particular guitar, I have a floating bridge. It's not attached to anything, so as you can see, it comes right off. Okay, hopefully that won't be a problem. All right, you can get yourself a microfiber cloth if you have one. If you don't, you can find them literally anywhere. Super soft. You can use that and just give it a little wipe down. Now, if you see any gunk on the fretboard, there's these great products. I use them most of the time. They're conditioners for your neck. They can make it look real nice and get rid of all that gunk before it really builds up. Okay. And also, you can just simply use this to wipe some of that dirt and dust off your guitar really quick so it has that nice shine. Okay. This guitar spends a lot more time in its case than I wish, so it's not too dirty. But just like anything else, I hope that changes. I hope I'm playing this a lot because I really do love this guitar. And I gotta be honest, I've owned like 20 different guitars. Look at all that kind of gunk we just took off a little bit. That is very good. Now, sometimes I will use this deep cleaning polish, this Restore by Planet Waves. You know, you can go to a guitar shop and pick up that stuff. That was only like $7 a few years ago. And boy, it makes a world of difference. It can really bring back the shine in the body. It can make it feel a little like slicker, which is good. All right, party time. So, like I showed you, I took off the strings in an order where the centers came off first. I like to put the centers on first. So this is your heaviest string, and your lightest string would be the 9. So I'm going to take these two first and put them on. What I'm going to show you is how I plan on doing that. Okay, so let me just make sure. I got the 24. Okay, and that can, I'll change too. So we'll start it down here. And through there, pull it nice and tight. And here's what I want you to do. Let me see if I can have you see this. So, go around once, go around twice, go around a third time. But what I'd like you to do is take the string and feed it into the hole. And that can be, you can have your first 2 winds, one above and one below. And that will really help it not slip. Now, I like to finish it off by pulling it extra tight there, and then you can tune it. You don't have to tune it to pitch yet. So just give it a little something to give it some tension. See, I just pulled on the string a little bit and it made a little difference. All right, that's a lot better. Okay, so we'll get back to tuning. That sounds so much better already. Okay. And especially, honestly, these needle nose pliers will make a huge difference, especially in these thinner strings. They're harder to grip. Sometimes they're a little stabbier, honestly, because they're so like because of their gauge. Okay, so get through here. All right, same thing. So 1, 2. Now you're sending it around for the third, but instead send it through the hole. And what I want you to try and do is either go under the string windings that you just did, or go in between. So I just need to get them up just a, there we go. Perfect. And then feed it through. And now let me, again, this is really important for me. Pulling this nice and tight. It can be a little harder to do. With these strings, it's so slippery, and I don't want to scratch it. So let me grip it like, you can grip and bend. There we go. We got what we want. And you can get it real nice and tight around the tuning peg. And then you tighten it up. Am I going the right way? Nope. Okay. And make sure you're tightening the right way, or else you're wasting your time. Okay. Sounds like crap, but it's getting there. And what I also like about this, you can get the, again, you get it really nice and tight around the tuning peg. Do you hear how that really took something out of it at first? We want to try, the way we're doing this, we're trying to eliminate that stuff, the detuning going on. Now you can just put them on whichever way you want. Okay, you can go with the heavy stuff first or light stuff. I'm going to go with the heavies. Okay, so my other guitar the way that we would put on strings is fairly similar, okay? Except it's called a through body. So what that means is the tuning pegs go through the body, okay? Now where is the hole? You gotta find the hole. There we go. And obviously this is kind of repetitive because you gotta do it 6 times. Nice and tight. Just give it a couple spins. They also make a string winder. I've never found it super necessary. It's not like it's hard to do. Okay, but if you feel like it's a problem, it's a real cheap piece of plastic, and you can wind your strings up a whole lot faster. Okay. Now, there are other things that can make this experience a whole lot more enjoyable for you if you want to do some modifications to what you have. One of them, which I plan on doing when I have the want, is they do make something called locking tuners, and they are awesome. Okay, so the way they work is there is a twistable button on the back of the tuner. Okay, and let's say you put it in. What you do is you loosen that button, and you can honestly just send your string through one. You don't have to do all the winding that I'm doing. You can just send it through one hole, and you're all set. And then you tune it, and then you tighten that little button on the bottom afterwards. And what happens is it cuts. It holds the string tight under a ball bearing, and then it can also cut off the ends, which is like going to be the last thing we do. Well, pretty close. You know, gotta make sure it's in tune because it'll definitely get knocked out of tune when we do that. So everything's looking great. I'm on my bed because it's too cold to go in my workshop. So now, what is one good reason to not keep the ends of the strings hanging off the headstock of your guitar? You'll poke your eye out. Okay, so I'm going to show you a destructive but relatively effective way to do that. Now, here's another thing. Again, these are pretty break resistant strings, and I've been doing this for a very long time now, so it's not a big thing to me. If you're going to go get guitar strings, try your best to find a sale with more than one pack because these little strings tend to break sometimes when you're tuning. And that sucks because then what are you going to do? So, I mean, you'll need it anyway eventually, so you might as well go and get it. Okay? All right, last string, and then we can do some other little doodads. I give these last ones a couple extra little winds because why not? Okay. Okay, not the okay, that cleaned up pretty good. I was a little worried about that one. You especially want extras of that last E string. Boy, when that snaps, ruins your day. Okay. Now, why is it making that? Oh, it didn't catch on the bridge. Now then, let's tune it to pitch. I have no reason to believe there's anything wrong with it. Everything looks great. I'm going to move up the bridge just a smidge. There we go. That's just because I have this floating bridge. I want to make sure it's placed fairly correctly, and it looks pretty darn good. Okay. You can tune it, but we're going to tune it again too because that's kind of important. Something else I was taught a while back when I was in class is what you can do. You can kind of pinch your string and stretch it a little bit. Give a little stretch from the bottom to the top, and it'll be a little more flexible, a little less likely to break. I rarely ever really worry about that, but it's a good move if you're really putting in some work and really playing this sucker. All right, so tune it to pitch. Some of you have those fancy snarks. I have the Boss app. So that needs some super tuning. I always kind of back up when I'm doing the E string because, again, that's the one that can snap. Beautiful. Now, what is definitely going to happen to you is it's going to get knocked out of tune. That's okay. Just tune it again. All right, the strings are getting used, like settling in a way. Ooh. There we go. If you have a discerning ear too, you can even hear the pitch slip a little bit as I'm tuning it because it's just not used to being stretched like this yet. I'm just going to go with standard tuning. All right, so let's take these off. What I usually do is you can take your plier or your hands, and what I want you to do is vigorously bend that extra piece of the string back and forth until it snaps off. Now, it totally knocked us out of tune, but we can retune it, so it's not a big deal, okay? So you can even hear as I started messing with this one, it knocked it out of tune. Some other people, they use their pliers and they cut it. I like this way because it takes it all the way off. There's no stabbiness, nothing pointy, and it's just nice and clean. All right. So that one is off. Okay. There's like a little bit left over, but who cares? These three, they might be a little tougher to do, but you just be tough on it and it'll happen. Okay. You know what? That one doesn't want to play nice, so I'm just going to take this and cut, cut, cut. So it's probably still out of tune, so no big deal. So now there's less for, no worries about your eyes or anyone else's while you're rocking out. Okay. Okay, so we'll retune in just a second, but I'm going to show you two more things that are a little more advanced, okay, that you might want to know about if you really want to get into, how to take care of your guitar. So, if your guitar may have come with these, okay? And these are hex wrenches. I always keep them. And if you're noticing that there's something up with your strings. Maybe they're sitting too far off the neck or too close and you're getting some buzzing and things, you could, if you have the guts, investigate what's going on with your truss rod. Okay? So in the middle of your guitar neck, there is a metal rod, and it can help with tension. Okay? If I were to open up these 3 screws here at the headstock, you would see it. And then what you would do is you would use this. Now, check out other YouTube videos on how to do this, or go to a guitar shop and get it done professionally. Okay? Because it's not for the squeamish. What you would do is you would go righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and they would relieve or add tension. And you would do just quarter turns or eighth turns. You'd give it a couple minutes to actually see the change in it. It's not like spontaneous, it doesn't happen right away. But then you could see if there's any change in there. Okay, so that's one remedy. Okay, if you have the tools and the guts and the ability and you want to learn it. But you've really got to be careful with how much you turn it because you could break your truss rod. And a broken truss rod is a broken guitar. There's no coming back from that one. Okay? Another thing you could do, if you feel like it just doesn't sound 100% right, you tune it. Your tuner says you're right, but you hear this little wobble. Okay? That could be your intonation. And intonation happens here. So you would get whatever you need for that. Sometimes it's a small hex wrench. In this case, it's a flathead screwdriver. And what you would do is you'd put your tuner on, okay? You'd hit the open string. You'd see what that comes up for that. You'd hit the 12th note on the same string. And if they don't tune exactly the same, your intonation's off. And you can reduce or lessen the tension on those screws to get them both to be at the same pitch. Okay, so there's another side of it. All right, so I hope that was a little helpful, just a little basic thing to do on here that, instead of paying somebody to do it, you could learn how to do it yourself, like an oil change. Um, I will be back early April to jam out with you in class, okay? If you ever want to talk to me or ask me about anything, you can text me on the remind, okay? Mr. Longo, signing off. Peace.